hold on one sec. Yeah, buddy, I gotta make this quick.
Then may I recommend the instant demands? They're flash fried.
Yeah. I don't need the recipe. Just get it out here with a side of frazzled nerves and bring the check while you're at it.
Absolutely.
I needed the reports like yesterday. Hey, buddy, can you replace this one with one that's burnt above end? What was I saying? I've got to work late tonight, honey.
Good morning, PV. It's good to see you. It's great to have all of you who are watching online, probably some who are maybe sitting in a camper or in mountains or at the ocean. Welcome to online. It's nice to have everybody here. I have an announcement, just one, basically, is if you are involved in Bible school, we are a week away. 1 week from today, I think it's whatever, in the evening, we're going to start Bible school. And if you are involved or volunteering at all, on Wednesday evening, there's a meeting here at church. So we would ask you to come. They want to get everything organized, get everybody prepared, so everybody knows what they're doing for the coming week. So that's what's going on, and we're excited about it and pray God's blessing on it. Today we're going to do our last part of the series we've been doing called I Choose. And we're looking at choices that we make. And we're looking at 4 through the series, and there's a reality that you and I make a lot more than 4 choices in our life, right? We do. And I just want to remind you that no matter what, as followers of Jesus, one of the things that we have constantly available to us is we can, when decisions and important things come up in our life, we can go to God for guidance. We can go to God for direction, to give us wisdom. We're not limited by anything on this earth but our own choice. And I think it's important that we seek God's wisdom and follow His directions, and I think it will always lead us in the right place. But we have looked at some major choices and decisions that we've made the last 3 weeks, and today we're going to talk about another one of those choices. But I want to ask you a question, and I want you to think about it, but I don't think it'll take you long to think about it. How many of you would say honestly that sometimes you wish that there was more time to do what was really important to you? Anybody? Okay, it's about the same as the first service. Everybody raised their hand. And we all seem to feel that way. I know I do. And I've said, I wish I had more time to do this or to do that, whatever it is. Some of you say, I wish I had more time to read. I wish I had more time I bet there's some moms in here that say, I wish I had some more time to rest, just to sleep once past, 5:30 or whatever it is, And some would like to just maybe work in the garden. Some of us would say, man, I just wish I had more time to fish or hunt or whatever it is we want to do, okay? We say, I wish I had more times. I wish I had times to do what's really important. And when we think about that, and remember what we just did, we raised our hand, right? Now I want us to think about something seriously. I think, in reality, that we somehow find the time to do what we want to do. You know what I'm saying? That what we really want to do, we somehow find time to do that. Don't you agree? I think we do. When something is important to us and we're going to find the time, it's going to fit. There's something else that we need to think about on a very practical side. I don't know about you, but when I talk to people, I often say, hey man, how you doing? What's going on? And people will say right away, first response, busy. I'm so busy. I can't believe how busy I am. It's just like I feel like I'm going in circles. You hear that? If I was thinking that, you probably thought, yeah, I'm busy. I'm busy. Don't ask me to do nothing. Don't make me feel guilty. Don't add anything to my list, right? That's what we say all the time. And I hear it all the time. I am so busy. I understand that because I feel in my life I'm busy. Sometimes it's important that I know in mine, my wife and I, we work in some, I don't know what we call them that, but just some points we need to breathe. We need to just breathe. Here's something I want you to think about. We're a culture that prides itself now on being busy. If you were to say, I don't think anybody's ever told me, when said, how you doing, how's life or whatever, man, I'm chilled, I am so good. I don't hear that. Or, I'm loving life. I don't hear that. Busy. Here's the thing that I want you to think about. I think, especially to those who are followers of Jesus Christ, if Satan can't make you bad, he makes you busy. I want you to think about that. If Satan can't make you bad, he makes you busy. Now, why would I say that? You mean I don't think I'm doing the work of Satan? Yeah, but are you doing the work of God? Or are you too busy to do the work of God? Or are you too distracted to do the work of God? How many of us are busy doing things that are really, really important? And I know some of you guys and some of you ladies just thought, well, working sort of is important. I'm busy doing that. We're going to look at the topic or the whole question today is I choose important over the urgent. I choose important over urgent. I think one of the things we have to be honest and realize that you and I choose what we have time for. We make the choice. Somewhere along the line, we make the choice. We can work for a company that has tons of work, and we make the choice to work it or not. It's our choice. No matter what we say, it's our choice. It comes down to it. We actually have time for what we choose to have time for. And what I want us to do is to look how important it is to do and respond to choose what's important over what's urgent. And some of you probably think, well, wait, urgent is important. It can be, but it's mostly not. The reality of it is it's mostly not. I want to give you an example. Let's suppose you have a business, and in your business you deal with the public. And one day you have this customer who is really upset, and it's very urgent that you take care of it. Now, it was important, but it was urgent. What would have been better was, and much more important, if you had a policy and all your people knew the policy of what you do when a customer's upset, how you handle it, how do you get that customer satisfied. If you had ways to do that, that customer wouldn't be yelling at you. It wouldn't have been urgent because you had already done what was important by taking care of the problem before it became a problem. Make sense? Does that, you know what I'm saying? It makes sense. Another way is you don't change the oil in your car. You just keep running it and dump oil in when it needs it. You will have an engine crisis that demands urgent repair. Now, you could have done what was important to do to maintain, change your oil. That's important, which would have probably stopped the urgent from happening. You see what I'm saying? And it's that way with, I mean, there's so many things. We get sick and, well, you're not eating well, you're not doing that. And it's urgent to go to the doctor, but what would have been important was to take care of yourself long before you get sick, to actually listen, to do things. And, it's that kind of stuff. It's like, we all know that smoking, and I smoked when I was younger. And it's very hard to give up. But we knew, and I knew right on every pack of cigarettes I bought said, causes cancer, right? It's right there on it. And after you smoke, you come to realize it's very important to stop. It's important because what's going to happen is you're going to have an urgent need for cancer removal, chemo, whatever, a lung replacement at some other date, when it would have been far more important to stop it before you got to the urgent. If you're old enough, you remember who Dwight Eisenhower was, and if you don't, some of you, he was the main general during World War II for the Allies, and he was also a two-term president in the 50s. He had a motto type thing. He believed, he followed it as general, and he followed it as president of the United States. And this is what he always said when problems and issues came up. He said, what is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important. That's how he looked at it. That's how he handled things. They could come in and say, screaming this and that, and it's urgent and stuff. No, it wasn't urgent. And he had a reason why. He said, urgent means that a task requires immediate attention. It shouts, now. Urgent tasks put us on to a reactive mode, one marked by defensive, negative, hurried, and narrowly focused mindset. Important tasks are those things which contribute to our long-term mission, our values and goals. Sometimes important tasks are also urgent, but typically they're not. When we focus on important activities, we operate this way, in a responsive mode, which helps us remain calm, keeps us rational, and it opens us to all new opportunities and possibilities. So, that's a major way to think about it. When we try to constantly deal with the urgent, we're defensive. We're not thinking. We don't have time to weigh it out. But when we're looking at something important, we relax. We take time to look at it. We look at all sides of it. I want to look at a story from the New Testament, Luke chapter 10. And it's familiar probably to many of you who are followers of Jesus. And if you're not, or a new Christian and it's not familiar, we're going to go over it. But it's about two sisters who illustrate what's important and what's urgent. And it's Martha and Mary. They and their brother Lazarus were supporters of Jesus' ministry. Martha and Mary and Lazarus had opened their home that any time that Jesus was in the area and needed a place to come to stay, to sleep at, they provided food, lodging, the whole bit. They were supporters. And Luke 10 tells this story that Jesus is walking and he's going to come to Mary and Martha's house. And when Martha hears this, she gets all antsy. She gets all, ramped up. Now, Martha, I sometimes associate her with Thomas. She gets a bad rap. We can look at it, and we're going to look at it and say, Martha's this way, Mary's this way, and she chose the right thing. But I want us to actually think about this. If you are like most people, and, if I know when we had little ones and stuff like that, even now, if somebody's coming to my house and say, hey, can we come and I have a time set up, especially if they would call and say, hey, can I come and talk to you? And we hang up the phone and say, yep, come. And then it's like, clean the house, everybody, put the stuff away. You got people coming, right? Don't we sometimes do that? Unless we know somebody good, unless it's family, you know what I mean. But for normal, if just like somebody else is just not family, and then you say, well, what do they think? My house is a wreck. We go nuts cleaning up. Most of us do that, right? Especially with little kids. I used to go just nuts because stuff would be everywhere. And preachers are supposed to be holy and have everything in its place. And now imagine, if we do that for like normal everyday people, imagine that Jesus Christ, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the great I am, the God of all things is coming to your house. Do you think you might want to clean the house up? Don't you think that would rattle you a little bit? Being honest, yeah. Come on. Everything's totally different. It's like, man, we just can't clean. It's hands and knees clean because Jesus knows. He knows that you're sweeping stuff under the rug, to cover it up. He knows that things ain't put away. He's going to know it. Because we freak out over stuff like that, right? I mean, this is God. It's got to be clean. I mean, heaven, his throne must be, no dirt. None. It's not allowed, right? So think about Martha. She's very concerned about her house. She wants it nice for Jesus. Is she wrong? She's not wrong. But she responds more to the urgent, to the situation. She didn't have much planning, and remember, she can't go to the freezer. She can't go, and thaw something out in the microwave. I remember Galen Hackman one time, who was home from leave, and they were in Africa, in mission. And he used to say, in Africa, when we talk about coming to dinner, they kill the chicken when you get there. Think about that. You got an hour or two till you're going to eat any of that chicken, right? They got to kill it, feather it, do all that stuff to it, and then cook it. There's no pull it out, have it thawed, do all the things that we take for granted. Martha had that. That's what she had to do. She's got 13, Jesus, it's 12 disciples and him. Got 13 people hungry. They're ready to eat. And she's all worried about that. Now, the funny thing is she supported his ministry. She would have known that, that he fed like 5,000 and 15,000 people. You would think that this is God. If he goes like this, there's what's the place, Maple, over there in Lancaster? Yeah, Shady Maple. Shady Maple right before you. You got everything you want. But she was not thinking that way. And that's sort of what responding to the urgent does. We don't think about that. We're not able to because we've now just pictured this in front of us. You see what I'm saying? It's the urgent. So I'm not even thinking that this is God here. He does amazing things with leftovers, the bread and the fish. He did amazing things with that. We're going to be okay. But the urgent chased that away. The busyness took over. She really got stressed out. Martha, the scripture says, was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. I understand that. In this life, in our life, and I know as a pastor, there's so many distractions. There's so many things that come across my desk, that come to me in emails, that come to me through mails. There's so many things that say, dear pastor, do this. Dear pastor, be involved. Dear, do that. And it's so good. They're good. But we can't do everything. I can't do everything. So I have to sometimes do what's important and not the urgent. I can't fix everything urgent. The one thing I am not is God. In fact, I think some of us may need to claim this as our life verse. Seriously, Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Because some of us get distracted so much by preparations, by things that have to be done. And we can do this even in church. Missionary work or whatever. We can get distracted by everything that has to be done that we don't even enjoy it. We've worked so hard preparing for some event, so hard preparing in a ministry for something that we never take the time to enjoy it. Because we're caught up in the urgent, the little things, the things left undone that we didn't do. Martha was so upset, she finally gets so frustrated, she reaches such a level of anxiety, she rats out her sister. And this isn't like brother and little Johnny, little Sally saying, she did this, no, he did this. This is full-grown people. And Martha finally goes to Jesus and said, Lord, don't you care about me? Don't you care? I'm doing all the work here. Don't you even see that? I'm doing all the work. Can't you make Mary do something? That was her concern, right? She's there like ratting out her sister. She's saying to God, you know what I mean? That's sort of, think about it. Saying to God, she's so distracted. She's not even realizing in a sense what she's saying. You're God, make her move. Make her do this. Make something happen to help me. I don't want to do this all myself. This is too much. I think we can all look at this and say we've been here. In fact, on your notes, I even have a question down to help us to realize this, and this is important. And it's important to take time to look at it. What is the most important thing that you've been distracted from pursuing? What is the most important thing that you have been distracted from pursuing? I think there's a lot of us who could say, you know what, I really felt God was calling me to this, but you know, this came up and it seemed so important, or this came up and I sort of got, because we get distracted. We are. We're no different than sheep. The Bible constantly refers to us as sheep, and sheep are easily distracted. They see shiny things, and that's what they go for. And they lose track of what they're called to. I mean, think about it. You know, I want to follow Jesus. You came to know Jesus as Lord and Savior, and I'm going to follow Jesus, but suddenly we're distracted. We're not spending time in God's Word. We're not spending time in prayer. Well, I'll get to it. I haven't done it. I've been so busy. Remember that I said about Satan wants to keep us busy? Some of us are so busy that we haven't made it a priority. We haven't looked at it as important as spending time with Jesus. Mom, Dad, I want you to think of something. Do you remember when your child was born? I know you do. All right, that's like one of those life moments. Do you remember, and I remember my very first, and I don't know what it would be for a mother. I really don't. I don't know that a mother can describe that. You birth a human. All right? You have raised for 9 months, intimately close, precious. And now you birth this human who looks a mess. Right? And yet you don't care one bit. You don't care. And as a dad, I'm looking at this mess. And in an instant, I would die for that mess. And thank God for this baby who's not all cute and all dressed up. He's naked and he's screaming and he still has the umbilical cord to him, and it's precious. Do you remember that? You remember those times? It meant so much. And we go down a couple years now. And now you got 2 or 3 or 4 had kids that are around you. And they're more like hindrances. They're all over you. And these children that you love so much now suddenly are a distraction. Because why? Because we're trying to respond to the urgent, to clean house, to get this ready, to do this, to still have a life, to do this. And we forget how precious they were. Why? Because we've answered the urgent instead of staying focused on the important. We're all guilty of that. It's in so many aspects of our life that we've gone from what was important to dealing with all the urgency around us, and we're missing the very thing that God called us to that is important. And it matters. We've done it with our physical body. We've done it, you know what, parents, and this is to young parents, but it's you do not want to get to the point when your children leave your home and you look at your spouse and wonder who they are. And there are hundreds and thousands of couples who are doing the very same thing, because what you've done is you've put so much into being parents, to being a mom or dad, and you've tried to live your children's lives, protect them, do everything else, instead of doing what's important for your kids, which is to build a strong marriage, the foundation that your kids believe will have security, and your kids will see what a godly marriage looks like. You poured everything into the kids and not each other. You did this. You took care of the urgent and totally missed the important. And we're doing it all the time. all the time. Choosing the things that are urgent, choosing the things that really pull us away from what God wants us to do. Another verse for us, a life verse, would be verse 41 in Luke 10. Martha, you're worried and upset about many things. Isn't that us today? Isn't it? So many of us were worried and upset about so many things. Well, you said, turn on the news. You'd be upset too. It's the world. It's not the first time it's been here. It's not the first time it's been crazy. We just hear it and see it a lot more with the technology we have. All right? God's got this. He has you. He has me. Listen to what he tells her. He said, I'm not going to tell Mary. She chose the right thing. Martha, you were so distracted by the urgent, getting the house neat, doing all these things to make us comfortable. We appreciate it, but that wasn't the important thing. She chose the important thing. She wanted to sit at the feet of God. Think of that. She wanted to sit at the feet of God. I'm not worried about food. Food's not important to me right now. What is to hear the voice of Jesus Christ speak into my life. I got everything else. You worry about Martha. You're worried about things you shouldn't be. It's not your place. I got you. Martha had surrendered to the urgent. Mary had chose what was important. You know what? We have to be intentional about it. We have got to look at our life and look at what's important. Because if we don't choose what's important, the world and culture around us will fill our lives with the urgent. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But it will fill it. And we will be busy. And we will be busy. And too busy. I want to give you 3 practical thoughts. Just practical things to apply and try to help you get focused on what's important. All right? First is, in our lives, we need to create some artificial deadlines. You say, what? What in the world is an artificial deadline? It's an artificial deadline. All right? It is exactly that. What do I mean by that? When is the deadline for my message? Think about that. When is the actual deadline, the real deadline that I have to have my message? It's Sunday morning at 9:40 generally, a.m., Sunday morning, 9:40. I better have that message. The artificial deadline for my message that I create must be done is Thursday noon. I'm working on getting it to Wednesday by dinner, supper, like 5 o'clock, okay? I would like to increase it. Why an artificial deadline? Because in my calling and my responsibility, that's one of the important things that I have to do. And there are a lot of distractions that come up. And I'm very cautious about distractions during Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Not saying I won't respond to them, but it's a lot slimmer that you'll see me or, set aside time for certain things on it because I have this deadline and I want to even shorten it. Why? Because I want to be able to do what's important in other areas as well. I'm called as a husband, as a father, as a papa, all right? That's important to me. I want time for that. I want to be able to say, this is important. I want to put these blocks in here. Yes, I will do things during even those days when I have my artificial deadline and it forces me to hold that deadline. Now you might blew a half a day or something of your study because you watched the kids where somebody went to the doctor or did things like that, and that's perfectly okay. I can do it. Because what an artificial deadline does is create this ability to focus. I want you to think about this. Everybody can experience this. This is a prime weekend for this. Let's suppose that back up to last Wednesday, and you had the opportunity Wednesday evening to leave, go camping, go to the ocean, whatever, and you were going to have a really long weekend. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, right? Now, if you're like my jobs that I used to have, my boss, if I wanted off, that was okay, but I had to produce Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, same amount of work, now into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 5 days work into 3, right? And I always did it. We do it. Why? We created an artificial deadline because we wanted to do something. We wanted to go away. So I had to do this. Is it possible? No, we do it all the time. In fact, a lot of us, we hope a boss doesn't think about that too often. That we can pack in 5 days into 3. But the reason is when we have to do it, when we create, because we have this, we want to do this so bad, we stay focused. We will not respond to the urgent. We don't go off on tangents. We stay focused to get that whole week into 3 days. And most of the time, if you're like me, you did it. You got it. And that's what an artificial time period, that cutoff time or whatever, is so important. Because even though it's not the real one, it creates a place then I can move to something else that's important that I want to give my time and effort to. And that's what we do. We can focus better. We think better. Artificial deadline. And when we do that, I want you to think about this too. When you know that I got a certain amount of time, what will happen is when I was a manager at Calvin's, or that's where I did a lot, I delegated more. I would tell people, listen, I'm going to be gone. You need to take care of this, this, and this. Now it's your responsibility. Okay, I'll do that. I can take care of that. I learned to say no to things I should not be doing. There'll be things people call, and can you do this? No, you have to I can schedule it for next week. I'm not going to do it this week. It's okay, you work things like that. You learn to say no, and I learn to make decisions faster. And that's important at times, to make decisions a little faster. It's not always. You got to think through some things, but you know what? We can do it. Now, anybody can create that. Let's say you're a stay-at-home mom or dad, or like with me, my office at home, and I'm doing more things around the house to help when Joyce is working. So let's say you want to clean the house, and you always say, well, I like to try to clean the whole thing all at once. But it's really frustrating, especially when you have little kids. It's like impossible. You clean your bedroom because you're trying to have a nice bedroom, at least everything, where at least you can feel like you can go in and say, and you clean it, and you go in, you're trying to do another room, and you look back, and there's your 2-year-old with Cheerios in your bedroom, on your bed, and there's Cheerios and crumbs that she stepped on and rolled on, and it's like so frustrating, right? Isn't it? What if you set an artificial deadline? I just want you to think about this. And especially if you're structured, like I know some people are, when you say clean house, that means it's got to be done. Well, God gave you children. And remember that time when they're born? How about you create this deadline, say, I'm going to clean, get up, do this an hour, 1 hour. I'm going to get done what I can get done in that hour. And tomorrow I have another hour, and I'll go from there. But how about I spend the next hour with the kids? How about they have my attention? How about they're not under my feet? Artificial deadline begins to create that. We begin to create it. We can say, you know what? This is important to me. I want to just have fun. I just want to roll and wrestle with my boys. You know what I'm saying? It's that kind of thing. It's important to them. It means a lot. Not only that they see you work, but they can see you love your mother, their mother, or you love their father. You don't know how important that is to your children. Some of you do. You've seen it. The second thing that we really need to do to focus on what's important is we need to be ruthlessly selective in our yeses. Ruthlessly, I'll get this right. Ruthlessly selective in our yeses. What does that mean? I'll give you an example. Years ago, when we had the different kind of ministry, this goes back into the 70s and 80s, early 90s, we had an average, when I came into ministry, there were 4 ministers. We had as high as 7. So it was easier if somebody from another church asked you to come and have revivals for a week or preach. Could you preach for them? I said yes a lot. I enjoyed it. My responsibility here was still here, but it was shared across a broad ministry scope. You know, I didn't preach every Sunday. It wasn't that responsibility. I didn't have charge of a schedule. That wasn't my responsibility. So I was able to say yes. When that responsibility fell on me, and I remember when Fred passed away as our moderator, and I became moderator at that point, I at that point chose no longer to go out. I said, no, I won't go, I won't do revivals. Now, that was turning down a good thing. I saw a lot of people come to Jesus Christ. I got to talk to a lot of people, to share and learn from other Christians and other church experiences. It gave a vast amount of insight. But now the focus had to be totally on this congregation. This was important. The others is urgent. The others is nice. The others is good, but it's not important. So I had to learn to say yes to things that were important. Yes to things that would benefit this congregation. And no to a lot of good things. And I want you to hear that. I say no to a lot of good things. Because I say no does not mean that I think your thing isn't good. You with me? You understand? I'm saying no because I don't have the time. It's not important for me at that time to give time to it. I'm protecting what's important for me. And that's where I think it's very important. You know, I think in church, a lot of us, we get pressured. We feel sometimes guilty. These pastors get up here and we tell you how you need to get involved and do these things just like I do. And, you know, we get involved in more things than we should. But some of us, we're involved in too many things and we need to be a lot more selective with our yeses. Some of us are involved in so much and you'll sit there and tell me, that's because nobody else will do it. That's because you won't step out of the way. And there's reality in that. And there's some things that we should be stepping out of the way so others can step up and we'd find that we're a lot happier and other people are doing more. And it's things like that we can do that. So be selective. You know, what you have to do is learn to say yes to the best and no to the good. Yes to the best and no to the good. The best leaders do not do more. That's important. The best leaders do not do more. The best leaders do more of what matters most, what's important. Artificial deadlines, selective with their yeses. And the third thing is, learn to do what matters most first. Learn to do what matters most first. Now, as a follower of Jesus Christ, our number one priority is our relationship with Jesus Christ. Our number one priority. If we want to have a relationship, we need to spend time with Christ. We need to be in the Word. Now, there's people who tell you that means it should be first. And some of you may say, yep, I agree with that. That means jump out of bed, get into the Word, you know, have prayer. First thing in the morning before you do everything else. If that's you, God bless you. That is not me. All right? Because if I get up in the morning and I bow my head to pray, I'm going back to sleep. I don't like mornings until coffee. All right? I want to be awake. So I think what we have to do is we get in that daily habit. It's going to be, I'm spending time with Jesus. I'm going to spend something during this day because He's my top priority. I will not compromise on it. I will not skip it. It's important. It's priority to me. It's not going to let the urgent keep me from doing my time with Jesus. I make Him first. So whatever works for you, wherever you are, I am able to have that relationship, to sense His presence. I'm not hurried. I'm not rushed. That's the time we need to set aside with Jesus. How can we claim that, He's a part of my life when we're not spending any time with Him? We always should do what matters most. It should be the top priority that we work at doing every day. And I'm not saying that as legalistic, like it's you just gotta, because I think if I said morning and, maybe if I set a time like 5:30 in the morning, everybody get up and we worship Jesus together and all that, that becomes legalistic. If I ever say that, don't listen to me. Just don't. Tell me I've slipped, But, Jesus makes that point very clear in Matthew 6:33. And this is a verse for everybody that's ever, if you're a warrior, this is your life verse. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness. Don't worry about everything else. Seek first His kingdom and His righteousness. And God says, I'll add everything to it. I'll give you everything you need. But seek me first. Seek His righteousness first. What we do is we seek everything else. We let life get in the way. I think there's so many things we can do. We need to do first what matters most. We need to learn to say no to a lot. That's the hard thing for us to do sometimes. We need to learn to say no. When I talk about this, one of the things that I get pushed back for is, I'd like to spend more time with the Lord. But I'm so busy. Man, when I get up and the kids are up, they're already in full mode. I know. I understand that. When I worked in Maryland, I used to get up on an average between 3:30 and 5:30 every morning. I could travel to the job site with people and never say a word because I didn't have enough coffee, and I don't like talking in the morning. I've gotten better. And I would work all day and come home. When the boys were smaller, I would spend time with them, help take them off my wife's hand, because sometimes she would just say, they're yours now, having that kind of a day. Some of you understand that, so did we. And we'd spend time and get them in bed, and I always put them to bed, pray together, Bible stories together, or read Narnia. We read through the whole books of Narnia. And then I'd have my time with Jesus. My wife was settling, calming down, and that's when I could study, get into the Word, pray, without interruption, because it was important. And the day was hectic, and the day was full, and the day was crazy, all right? They are. But what we have to do, and parents, it's so important with our kids. God gave them to you, and they're important. They're important. They're in that category. They matter so much. In this world that's crazy and upside down, your family is like a rock, a sanction. And they will cling to that when they feel comfortable and safe doing it. And you create that because you made them important. But parents, you need to keep time for each other. I heard last week, some of you were here, you'll remember, I talked about the NIB. Not a V, I said NIB. All right? Having a weekend, it's just NIB, and you can talk to me about what is that. I talked about it last week. But listen, the deal is your marriage relationship is the bedrock for your children. importance is Jesus Christ, your relationship. If you are married, that's your next in priority. Not your children, not your children, your wife, your husband. Children take a lot of your time and take a lot of your energy, but putting everything into your children is going to leave you empty nesters one day with a very empty heart. Don't be those people. Be full of love and kindness and tenderness because you made your marriage important. And that's the way it is with so many things that we have and we want to do. What's important? What has God called you to? How many of you, we put it off? I feel God wants me to do this, but I'm so busy. That's the warning light. How about we answer God's call? Because that's important. And make it important to you today. Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, as we come to you this morning, again, I want to thank you that we could do this series together. And I know, Father, I just appreciate how much it meant to me to look at some of these issues, to examine how we choose and how often we do the wrong thing. And this morning really hits home because we can get distracted. We do fall out, run after the shiny thing. But Lord, help us to remember what's important. It's not the same thing for all of us. It's definitely not. We're called to different things. We're called to different ministries. We're called to different parts. But give us the wisdom in our lives where you have called us to see what's important and to keep that first. Help us to see it, Lord.